Except you didn't get it. You just stand there and wait.
Got something interesting, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So we've got.
No, unless you don't come to
Very good, thank you. All right, let's resume the trial. Any issues for the state before I send for the jury?
No, Judge, just need to put something on the record. We had previously had a motion regarding a piece of evidence. It was previously State's Exhibit number 6 for a motion to suppress 3D scan. It's a package containing a hard drive and a thumb drive as well. We're going to do a partial foundation with the next witness. I've now replaced that sticker with 295. So State's 295 for our record is formally State 6 from the motion to you.
All right. Anything else?
No.
And for the defense?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Bring the jury. Is this the last witness of the day?
He is.
That's all right for the jury, please. Pacemaker or something? Nobody show up at Be seated, please.
Again, I hope you enjoyed your lunch. It's very nice to have people take care of us, isn't it? I appreciate it. We're ready to resume the trial of the case. Would you call your next witness, please?
Detective Kerry Grimstead.
If you don't mind standing, the clerk is going to swear you in.
You do solemnly swear affirming the testimony subject to the court and the jury on this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Okay.
Will you be seated, please? Thank you.
If you will, sir, state your full name spelled for our court reporter.
It's Kerry Grimstead, C-A-R-E-Y. Grimstead is Grimstead.
And Detective Grimstead, can you please tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where you're employed?
I'm employed with the Cobb County Police Department.
And how long have you been with Cobb County PD in total?
I've been with Cobb County Police Department since 2005.
And in what capacity do you currently work with the police department?
Right now, I'm a detective in the robbery homicide unit.
And how long have you been in the detectives unit as in that capacity?
In this capacity since January.
Prior to that, what did you do with Cobb County Police Department?
I was a crime scene investigator assigned to the robbery homicide unit.
And did you work with a Brad Shumpert?
I did.
You'll be pleased to know he's used your name a couple of weeks ago, I guess it was last week, but he didn't use it in vain. You worked close with him when you guys were working crime scenes back then, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you please describe for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury your background and what brought you to Cobb County in terms of your law enforcement work?
I began my law enforcement career in 1997 with the Chatham County Sheriff's Office in Savannah, Georgia. In 2000, after being post-certified as a peace officer, I went to the county police in Chatham County. In 2005, I moved to Cobb County. was a patrol officer. While down in Chatham County, I spent 2.5 years as a crime scene investigator for that department. I moved up to Cobb County in 2005. I was on patrol until 2010. In 2010, I began working as a crime scene investigator.
From 2010 up and through, including your current work as a detective, have you been tasked with responding to crime scenes and processing those scenes?
Yes, I have.
What sort of training and education do you have that qualifies you to process crime scenes?
I have the core courses required by the state for a post-identification technician certification, as well as additional training. Altogether, I have over 542 hours of training dealing with evidence, crime scenes, and investigations.
We've heard from a number of officers, most of them in uniform, but also crime scene investigators and some detectives as well. Can you describe, just generally speaking, how your role has changed from crime scene investigator to detective? How's that a little bit of a different role for you now?
As a detective, I deal more with the personnel aspect, whereas a crime scene investigator, I was dealing with the evidence, collecting the evidence, and dealing with the scene.
We've had lots of discussions in jury selection up through and including the trial about the realities of crime scene investigations versus what you see on TV, particularly in some of these fictional shows. Can you articulate in your own words how they might be similar and how they might be different?
Many things are similar. The main thing is not the time and the availability of resources. We do not have the availability of resources due to funding that they would in a fictional show.
Okay. I want to talk about a particular technology that's relatively new to the police department. Are you familiar with 3D crime scene mapping?
Yes, I am.
Why don't you explain for the jury what 3D crime scene mapping is, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the technology.
We use the Faro 3D scanners by the company Faro. What it does is shoots a laser out, to put it in simple terms, as it rotates around, both up and down and around. It shoots lasers out. Wherever that laser strikes and returns, it records a time distance, given an accurate point in space and creating a point cloud. It also has a camera onto it. It takes photographs at the same time, and it will lay the photographs on top of the scan data.
Using this Faro process, Faro, by the way, for our court reporter, is spelled F-A-R-O, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, the Faro process that you're talking about, and when you have a more involved crime scene, do you oftentimes do scans from multiple points?
Yes, we do.
Can you explain to the jury what does the Faro system look like, first of all, and then we'll get to why you might use different points for a more involved scene?
The Faro system is, the system itself is a small box-looking object. The center of it has a mirror. That is what the laser reflects off of to go out. And it sits on top of a tripod, much like a camera tripod. We shoot multiple positions because the laser is only line of sight. If there's a wall or a table or something in front of a piece of evidence, we would need to shoot around that. We cannot shoot through it.
This point cloud that you talked about, is that where the system actually uploads the data into a computer that can piece it all together so you can get an accurate three-dimensional crime scene?
Yes, that is correct.
And do you have, at Cobb County Police Department, the technologies you've been discussing with this jury such that we can now scan certain crime scenes on occasion?
Yes, we do.
Can you explain for the jury, how did you come to learn about this and to be trained on how to use this device?
With technology ever evolving, we're researching new ways to accurately map crime scenes. We had some demonstrations done by a company that sells the Faro product. He also did some cases for us pro bono. Once we decided we were going to purchase those, we attended a 40-hour training, which is certified through the Faro company, and is taught by David Dustin, who is the president of Dustin Forensics.
And Mr. Dustin, does he give support to Cobb County Police Department whenever you all have technical questions about the Faro technology?
Yes, he does.
And is he the owner, to your knowledge, of Dustin Forensics.
Yes, he is.
And is he and his team, are those the folks that trained you and other crime scene investigators how to use this federal technology?
Yes, it is.
Since being trained by Mr. Dustin and Dustin Forensics, can you articulate for the jury, have you used this mapping software before?
Yes, I have.
Can you guesstimate for us, how many times do you think you've used it since being trained?
I've probably scanned, pardon my vernacular, scanned 15 to 20 scenes, not to mention the practice we've done, because if we don't use the technology, you tend to forget it, so there are a lot of times that we'll go back and we'll scan our lab or our office just to keep up with the scanning processes.
And when is it that you actually took the 40-hour class and got certified to use the federal technology, the 3D crime scene mapping?
Well, I do not know the exact date. I want to say it was 2015 or 2014, I can't remember.
Okay. Directing your attention to June 18th of 2014, and in this particular case, were you involved in the investigation in any limited capacity here?
Yes, I was.
And describe for the jury, back then, were you working in detectives or were you a crime scene investigator?
I was a crime scene investigator.
How is it that you were called upon to give assistance in this particular case?
I work morning watch, which for us at the time was 11 at night till 7 in the morning. I reported to work at about 10:30. Shortly after I reported to work, I was informed that there was an investigation ongoing and there was a search warrant on a vehicle, and I needed to process the vehicle.
You were tasked initially with processing the actual Tucson, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Did you respond to the Acre Mill crime scene at all, or did you wait for that vehicle to be delivered to you so that you could search it?
The vehicle was already secured in the crime scene processing shed.
We're about to go into some photographs, so I wanted to ask you about the shed. Why don't you describe for the jury what the crime scene processing shed is and where specifically it's located in relation to the crimes against persons office?
The crime scene processing shed, as we call it, is really a two-vehicle or two-bay garage. One side of the bay has a lift that we can put vehicles on to lift them up in the air, and the other side is open. There's also a computer in there, so if we need to do reports while we're down there, and there's also shelving with various materials. The shed is located at 140 North Marietta Parkway, which is in the parking lot where the Crimes Against Persons unit is located.
It's on the same complex then at the PD, is that accurate?
Yes, that is correct.
Just a separate standalone building?
Yes, that is correct.
I want to talk a little bit about crime scenes in general. Have you been to both open and closed crime scenes, and do you know what I mean when I refer to those terms?
Yes, I have been.
Why don't you explain the difference between an open scene versus an enclosed scene?
An open scene would be one that's pretty much just in the open, like the scene is outside, not in an enclosed space. As opposed to that, a closed crime scene would be one that's in an enclosed area.
Have you been to scenes where the death was relatively new versus scenes where the decedent at a particular scene apparently had been there in that position for a period of time?
Yes, I have.
And why don't you explain for the jury what you might expect to see in a situation where a deceased person has been there for a while versus a fresh homicide?
When a person has been dead for a while, the natural organisms in the body begin to deteriorate the body. It causes rot, for lack of a better term. There's also other items such as blowflies that leave their larvae. When they hatch, they're what's commonly referred to as maggots that will begin eating the soft portions of the flesh.
What about terms such as rigor and lividity? Are you familiar with those terms?
Yes, I am.
Why don't you explain to the jury what factors might lead you to observe that as a crime scene investigator?
Rigor or rigor mortis is a stiffening of the tendons after death. Onset of it, normally ballpark figure within 24 hours. Lividity or livor mortis is the settling of blood or pooling of blood in the lowest portion of the body, meaning the heart has stopped and the blood is just pooling.
In this particular case, did you have any dealings at all with victim Cooper Harris's body?
No, I did not.
What were your responsibilities in terms of this death investigation?
The processing and execution of the search warrant on the vehicle.
Was a search warrant obtained to search the defendant's Tucson?
Yes, it was.
And did you actually search that vehicle and see some evidence from inside of it?
Yes, I did.
When is it that you actually began the search of that vehicle pursuant to search warrant?
For an exact time, I would have to refer to my report.
Feel free.
At 23:35 hours, which is a 11:35 p.m., was when I was notified that a search warrant had been obtained, and that's when I proceeded to go to the crime scene processing shed.
And what was the date that you actually did the processing? Was it the same day that the investigation began, that being June the 18th?
Yes, that was June 18, 2014.
Once you got that search warrant that authorized you to search the Tucson, what did you first do?
The first thing I normally do when doing executing a search warrant is I'll conduct a walkthrough or a walk around. I walk around, like in this case, a vehicle. I'll look in the windows, see if there's anything I can see. I'll also look at the outside, see if there's any external damage, things of that nature.
What did you note as you did the initial walk around of this vehicle?
When I did the initial walk around the vehicle, I did not note any notable damage to the vehicle. When I looked inside of the vehicle, I did see a child safety seat in the back seat. It was the rear-facing type. It's bright red color.
This jury's already seen a number of pictures of that, and we'll get to the crime scene shed in just a minute, but where, generally speaking, was that located on that back seat area?
It was in the back seat, basically between the front driver and front passenger seat.
After walking around the vehicle and documenting it, did you actually make entry into the vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Did you note anything about the vehicle when you first entered it?
Yes, there was a heavy odor of, it's like a sweat, urine type smell in the vehicle.
Had you smelled an odor similar to that before in your law enforcement career?
Yes, I have.
Why don't you explain for the jury under what circumstances?
It's an odor that I normally associate with death. It's very hard to describe the odor, like a sickly sweat smell.
Now, at the time that you first noted this odor, was the vehicle fully closed up?
Yes, it was.
Do you know who had closed it and transported it to the crime scene shed for you?
The vehicle, I believe, was transported by Barrow Wrecker Service, but I don't know who actually placed the vehicle in the shed.
Okay. And I want to ask you about some items that you observed inside the vehicle after noting the smell. Can you describe for the jury, were there any items in the front passenger compartment of note?
Yes, there was. There was a computer bag on the floor in front of the front passenger seat. There was also a tan plastic bag on the front passenger seat. There was also, in the rear passenger floorboard, there was also a tan plastic bag.
Did you, well, let's take one step at a time. From the exterior of the vehicle before opening the doors, could you see the car seat?
Yes, I could.
And can you describe for the jury what generally the car seat looked like?
It appeared to be improper. Did not see any, it wasn't cockeyed or skewed sitting in there. It was sitting almost perfectly between the front driver and front passenger seat.
Once you opened the driver's side door and were able to get inside the door frame, were you able to see that seat inside the vehicle from outside in the door frame?
Yes, I could.
And describe how you document the search of a vehicle at the Cobb County Police Department evidence shed.
Many times what we do, if it's a serious crime, we will videotape first. I will videotape around pretty much the same way I do a walkthrough or a walk around. Then I will open each door and videotape the interior of the vehicle. Once I finish videotaping, I'll secure the videotape and then proceed to photograph the vehicle. I'll use the same process, photographing outside to in, as I did with the video.
In this particular case, did you do both of those things? In other words, did you photograph the vehicle and videotape it as well?
Yes, I did.
I want to show you some exhibits. You and I have had an opportunity to talk about this case on several occasions, correct?
That is correct.
The last time we talked about it, prior to our lunch break, was this morning when I went through some pictures with you, correct?
Yes.
Looking at states 249 through and including 291, are these fair and accurate depictions of the interior of the vehicle as well as certain items that you recovered from the vehicle during the execution of your search warrant?
Yes, they are.
Tender states 249 to 291.
Objection.
Admitted.
In addition to the actual photos that the jury will have an opportunity to see in the jury room, did you confirm that those photographs have been transferred through a thumb drive that I've now removed from package marked 294?
Yes, it is.
So these photographs here are also on this thumb drive so we can display them for the jury?
That is correct.
Also, you had talked about a crime scene video. Having watched this thumb drive marked 294, package marked 294, did you see a fair and accurate copy of the video that you took of the scene?
Yes, it is.
And is it a fair and accurate recording of the Tucson that you made while you were processing that vehicle?
Yes, it is.
To that effect, after watching it this morning, did I have you initial and put the date on it?
Yeah, I initially put my badge number on it.
Batch number, my apologies, kind of small.
Yes.
Judge, with that, almost tender states 294 as well.
Okay, one question, please.
The video, is that a video that you took of the vehicle out at Acres Mill or at the shed?
That was at the crime scene processing shed. I never went out to the actual scene
Okay.
at Acres Mill.
With that understanding, I don't have an objection.
Admitted.
In addition to the photographs, do you sometimes diagram a scene, including a vehicle?
Yes, I do.
Can you explain for the jury why you might want to do a diagram in some instances?
Many times, especially when dealing with measurements, it's easier for us to understand by looking at a picture instead of trying to read the words.
So in this particular case, did you make a diagram, and is this your handwriting, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You made a diagram of both the exterior and the interior of the vehicle with some measurements, is that correct?
That is correct.
Would it help you in describing the location of things and distances if you were allowed to use this diagram to demonstrate where things are and to demonstrate measurements?
Yes.
And 292 and 293, these are copies of the diagram, 292 being the interior of the vehicle, and 293 would be the exterior that you made, correct?
It's a side cutaway view, but yes, that is correct.
Tender states 292 and 293.
Objection.
Admitted.
Get used to this thing now. Finally. Is this good for everybody? Okay. Take these in turn. Detective, why don't you step down with me? It'd be easier if we did it that way. All right,
We're going to start.
take these in order. All right. We'll start with page 249. It's 249. Why did you take this first picture, and who actually made this little chart?
This is a chart we use to basically outline the following photographs, what case they're involved in, has the date and time on it, also the location, as well as the case number. It also tells who the photographer is and what type of case it is.
And you put all this here so that that would be the first photograph you saw, and then the other photographs that follow as a reminder to you of what you were documenting, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so moving on from states 249, describe what 250 shows, please.
Of course, that's the front driver's side door as well as the front left quarter panel.
What's this area in the background so that we can get our bearings and compare this to some of the other photographs of the vehicle that we've seen?
I apologize.
That's all right.
It's the, of course, the wall of the shed. You can see here the orange is the lift that I described that's on that side of the shed. And as you can see, the different items hanging on the shelf.
We don't need to go through all of the photographs, but I do want to show a couple of them. This is States 253. Looking at States 253, can you tell the jury, when you took this photograph, could you see the car seat through this windshield?
Yes, when I took this photograph, I could notice, you can see the child safety, oh, I'm sorry, I touched the,
That's all right.
you can see the child safety seat between the driver and front passenger seat.
Standing from the driver's side area of that, could you also, from the exterior of the vehicle before you open the door, see that rear-facing child seat?
Yes, you can.
Let's go to 254. What is this decal here?
Anytime we photograph vehicles, we want to get any identifying feature, such as window tags, things like that. And in this, you can actually, it's kind of hard to see because of the glare, but you can see the child safety seat as well through the windshield.
And what is this?
That's a Little Apron Academy. It'd be like a parking decal for a child care.
Are you familiar with Little Apron Academy in Cobb County, Georgia?
I know there is one, but beyond that, I'm really not familiar with it.
Okay. Looking at states 255, even from this limited vantage point, looking at 255, actually that's not a very good one. Let's try a different one. Let's go to 256. Looking at 256, what are we looking at here?
This is a right rear corner of the vehicle. Captures the license plate as well as the identifying A on the rear glass.
This is states 257. What do we see here?
And that's the opposite corner, the left rear corner. Again, you can see the license plate as well as the make and model of the vehicle.
All right, I want to talk about the interior of the vehicle a little bit. We'll start with states 258. Looking at 258, describe the vantage point that we have here.
This is the rear storage area of the SUV as taken with the back hatch open.
This was a hatchback, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
About how tall are you, by the way?
I'm about 6 foot tall.
Looking at this vehicle with a hatchback open, there were some items in the back.
Yes, there were.
Can you describe for the jury what you found back there?
There was some like amplifiers, some musical type electronics. There was also a computer found back there and some cables and other musical type accoutrements.
Would there have been space in this back seat or this back area with the hatch open to lay a child?
Oh, there's plenty of room. You can see here, just move that small bag.
You talked about having some room over there if you move the bag over. This is states exhibit 259. Where's that area of space?
That's the right side of the rear storage area as looking at it through the open hatch. You can see there's not a lot of items in there, so it's not like it was crowded or full.
This is states 260. Describe what we can see here from this vantage point, again from the rear of the vehicle with the hatch open.
This photograph again is taken looking directly towards the driver's compartment from the rear storage area. You can see the child safety seat clearly in between the driver's seat and then, well, it's kind of hard to see, but the front passenger seat is right there. As you can see it in relation to the driver's seat. Yes, that's a headrest.
This is States 261. Describe the vantage point here. Where were you standing when this photograph was taken?
I believe I was actually sitting in the driver's seat of the vehicle, looking to the right-hand side where the floorboard, a computer bag was on the floorboard in front of the front passenger seat.
Because we're having to make a record here. Where specifically was that computer bag located in the vehicle?
It was in the floorboard, exactly where it is there. You can see the seat is right here. It was directly in front of the seat, directly leaning against the seat.
As you were seated here in this driver's seat, would it be to your right or your left as you face forward?
It would be to the right.
Did you notice any other object to the right as you were documenting this vehicle?
I mean, if I looked fully to the right, like out of the right or front passenger door, I was able to see the child safety seat with my peripheral vision.
I want to go to States 262 specifically and ask you from this vantage point, from obviously inside the door frame but outside of the vehicle, describe what you saw when you looked into the vehicle from the door frame.
As you're standing with the open door looking into the vehicle, you can see again the computer bag sitting there in front of the front passenger seat. You can see the gray plastic bag right there. You can also see the child safety seat right there between the driver and front passenger seat.
From standing within that doorway, being approximately 6 feet tall, could you see all of these things with your own naked eyes?
Yes.
This is States 263. Describe what 263 is, please.
Okay, this is through the open front passenger's door. Again, you can see the computer bag there on the floor as it's leaning against the front passenger seat, as well as the gray plastic bag that was on the front passenger seat.
I'm going to refer to this bag as the Home Depot bag, if that's okay with you. Have you seen that bag recently as past
Yes.
day or so?
I have.
Okay. Where specifically was the Home Depot bag located in relation to the driver's seat, since we need to make a record?
The Home Depot bag is exactly where you see it on the front passenger seat, which is right across the the center console of the vehicle, which is between the driver and front passenger seat.
Turn this a little bit. This is the Home Depot bag, is that correct?
That is correct. This is the Home Depot bag.
States 264, what's that?
Yeah, and this is front passenger floorboard and the computer bag that was leaning against the front passenger seat in the front passenger floorboard.
Did you collect that bag?
I did.
States 266.
And that is the Home Depot bag. Actually, from this photograph, you can actually tell it is a Home Depot bag. It's a tan plastic bag. It's on the front passenger seat of the vehicle.
In addition to taking the photographs of that bag, we have that bag in the courtroom now, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You had an opportunity to look inside to see what items were included in that bag?
Yes, I did.
And what was inside the Home Depot bag?
There were some light bulbs, and there was also a receipt from Home Depot.
Let's do this first. This is States 270. Describe what we have here in 270.
And this is when I opened up one of the bags in the rear storage area of the vehicle. This is actually an iPad that was inside of this box with this, I call it an amplifier because I don't know exactly what it is. It's a musical type equipment.
And this is States 271 to confirm that it's an iPad. Did you actually open the front cover of that?
Yes, I did.
You talked about the receipt inside the bag. This is States Exhibit 268. Describe what the receipt is, please.
This is a receipt that was found in a plastic bag here. It describes what was purchased and also what date and time it was purchased.
We'll see the actual receipt in a second. But pulling up a photograph, 269 of that receipt. I'll ask you some things. First of all, do you see the date listed?
Yes, the date listed on the receipt is 06/18/14
What time?
at 12:35 p.m.
Just after noon?
Yes, that's correct.
And consistent with the light bulbs you've given testimony about, do you see that that's listed here as being,
40 watt.
yeah,
Yes, you can see there's 40 watt PLC, total of $15.94 before tax.
it's June the 18th at 12:35?
And you can even see on the receipt where the items were purchased from.
What Home Depot is listed there?
That's at, the address is 2450 Cumberland Parkway, Atlanta, Georgia, 30339.
Are you familiar with that location?
I am.
State's Exhibit 230, already been previously admitted. Looking at 230, do you see that Home Depot marked here off of Cumberland?
The Home Depot is right there in the lower center of the photograph.
Is there a Chick-fil-A near there?
Yes, there is.
Did you have any role in processing at a later date of that Chick-fil-A using this three-dimensional scanning that we talked about?
Yes, I did.
Where's the Home Depot that's referenced on this receipt depicted in front of the jury in relation to that Chick-fil-A?
The Home Depot is right there. The Chick-fil-A is right there.
And that was State's 269 that we were talking about, is that correct?
I
Right up here.
believe so.
Talk about the interior of the vehicle and the car seat. Did you take certain measurements to get the distance from the car seat, from doors and from the dashboard, so on and so forth?
Yes, I did.
And explain for the jury how that process works.
What you'll do is take several measurements to different areas of the item of evidence to fixed portions of the vehicle, so that way the evidence can be placed back where it exactly was.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 272. Describe what 272 depicts, please.
This is looking into the vehicle. You can see the driver. This is the driver's headrest. This is the front passenger's seat and headrest. You can see the child safety seat sitting between those two.
And this photograph was taken, obviously you can see the door frame here, but standing within the door frame looking into the vehicle.
Yes, that is correct.
Could you see that red car seat looking into the vehicle from the door frame?
Yes, I could.
What about seated here in the driver's seat? You said you actually sat inside the vehicle. When you turned to the right towards that Home Depot bag and towards that laptop bag on the floorboard, could you see that red car seat in your periphery?
Yes, in the periphery of my vision, you can see that bright red.
And your how tall?
I'm approximately 6 foot tall.
This is State's 274. Looking at 274, what vantage point and what are we looking at here?
This is a child safety seat. It's on the rear seat of the vehicle. It's taken through the rear passenger door.
This is 275. What are we looking at here?
These are the buckles of the child safety seat. Before I had disturbed them, I like to document. We document wherever everything is.
At the time you began your documenting and processing of this Tucson, did you know anything about Cooper Harris's age?
No, I did not.
I want to ask you about 277. Looking at stakes 277, what are these areas here that I'm pointing at?
Those are adjustments for the shoulder straps. As for a different size child, the larger your child, of course, the further up they would be to allow more room for the child.
Where were these adjusted on this car seat?
In the middle slots.
Not in the highest ones.
No, not in the highest ones.
278, what does that show?
This is what the child safety seat is rated for. Tells the minimum and maximum child weights.
And for the key fit and key foot 30, what's the range that it gave here?
It's rated for 22 pounds and then 30 pounds maximum.
In terms of taking measurements, this is stakes 279. Describe what we're looking at here.
This is a trifold square that we use to document distances or to scale a photograph so we can make it a scale size. Laid it inside of the child safety seat to show the distance from the base of the child safety seat to the top of the child safety seat, or top back.
This is stakes 280. Describe this vantage point, please.
This was, as you could tell from the last photograph, the top of the child safety seat was cut off and you were not able to see the top of the ruler where the size was. So immediately after taking that previous photograph, take this one to be able to show the entirety of the child safety seat.
And then just by way of example, you took some other measurements on the inside of the vehicle, is that correct?
Yes,
This is 283. Describe 283, please.
This is a stiff metal scale that we use. It's kind of like a very stiff tape measure because I was processing the vehicle by myself, so I was unable to hold it and photograph it at the same time. That's why this particular scale was used.
And then this is stakes exhibit 284. Just to give the back half of it, describe 284, please.
Yes, you can see this is the body of the steel tape. It's resting on the top of the child safety seat, and the front of it is resting towards the on the dash
Now,
in a straight line distance.
this photograph 284, was this taken while you were standing from a vantage point within the car's door frame but outside of the vehicle?
Yes, I photographed this looking through the open driver's door.
And looking at stakes 284, what's this item here?
Oh, that's the computer bag. It's on the floorboard.
What's
And you
this
can
item?
also see the Home Depot bag on the front passenger seat.
And what's this red item up here on the top right?
You can see the child safety seat between the driver and front passenger seat.
That receipt with that same date and 12/35, was that actually found in the Home Depot bag itself?
Yes, it was.
You collected certain items from the vehicle as well, correct?
That is correct.
Looking at stakes 285, first of all, did you collect the car seat itself?
Yes, there's a child safety seat that I collected. I had already placed an evidence tag on it.
What's 286? Obviously, this is part of the evidence shed, but what's to the right?
This is part of the musical, I'll call it an amplifier, part of the musical equipment, if you will.
Stakes 287.
Again, the same thing with this. You can see the plug jacks here, and it's the same name brand as the amplifier.
Stakes 288.
This is looking into the laptop bag. Yeah, that's better. Yes, you can see different electronic. No, this is not the laptop bag. This is the musical accoutrement bag, if you will. It has various cables and things used with the musical equipment.
This states 290. What's 290?
And there's some cables and plugs that were also found in the musical equipment bag.
And then this states 291.
That is the laptop bag.
Did you collect any electronic devices from inside that vehicle?
I did. There was, I want to say, an Apple computer, laptop, a Lenovo laptop, a Apple iPad. I think there was some thumb drives. I would have to refer to my report to give a more accurate detail of what was collected.
All right. I'm going to play the video now. So sticking with State's Exhibit 294. I'm going to first pause it. Do you recognize this as being the same video that we watched earlier today up on the third floor?
Yes, it is.
And this is a video of you walking around and videotaping the interior of that vehicle. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
You can take your seat for a minute. I'm just going to play through this. It's not very long. The video footage that we're watching now, Detective Grimstead, is this similar to the initial walk around that you did before entering the vehicle?
Yes, it is.
What are you doing right now in this portion of the video?
Sitting in the driver's seat of the vehicle.
When you were inside the vehicle, were you able to look and see whether there was a rear-facing camera feature for this vehicle?
Yes, I did not see one.
You collected that laptop bag, is that correct?
That is correct.
What's that we're looking at?
It's a, would be a pair of sunglasses.
Right. Ask you about your diagram. Judge, I'm just going to keep going until you tell me to stop, but I do have a little bit more, so I won't be interrupted if you feel like we get to a breaking point. This is states 293, first of all. And looking at states 293, describe what that is for the jury, please.
That's a profile cutaway view of the vehicle. if you're looking at the side of the vehicle and you take away the outer skin so you can see inside.
And then similarly, let's look at 292 now. Describe what 292 shows.
292 is a top-down view of the vehicle. As if you were hovering above it and you took the top off of the vehicle and could see down into it.
Did you make these two diagrams, 292 and 293?
I did.
Okay, and you drew pretty well, not Vinci or anything, but it's pretty good. Looking at 292 and 293, if we held these up for the jury, could you explain exactly what we're looking at, and then I want to ask you about some measurements.
Yes.
Why don't you step down for me? We'll start on this end of the jury box with 293, first of all. Hold that up and show the jury exactly what that is. It's kind of a little faint, so hard to see.
This is a side profile cutaway view of the vehicle so the interior can be seen.
And to be clear for our record, and for this is not drawn to scale or anything like that. This is more for use that you could document certain measurements.
Yes, this is not drawn to scale.
And then similarly, since you're down on this end, we'll start with 292 down here. Describe how 292 is different from 293.
This is the top view down, as if you were hovering directly above the vehicle and the top had been removed so you can see down into the passenger compartment and the rear compartment.
We saw some photographs of you taking measurements. Obviously, you took a lot more photographs than what was shown for the jury, correct?
Yes, I did.
But using those photographs as an example, why don't you have a seat? Were you able to get measurements from, for example, the top of that car seat to the front dashboard?
Yes, I was.
Were you able to get measurements from the side of that car seat, say, to the passenger side interior door in the back seat?
Yes, I was.
And similarly, could you get measurements from the side of the car seat to the driver's side rear door from the interior?
Yes, I could.
And give us some distances, if you will, how far that car seat was from the dashboard, first of all.
The right side of the car seat, the child safety seat, to the right rear passenger door was 1 foot 10.25 inches. All these measurements are taken from the outer edge of the child safety seat. The child safety seat from the left edge to the left rear passenger door was 1 foot 11.75 inches. And from the most forward part of the child safety seat, the top to the dashboard was 2 feet 10.5 inches.
You eventually collected this car seat as evidence, is that correct?
I did.
And what was the purpose in taking the measurements prior to collecting the car seat?
So if need be, we can place the evidence exactly back where it was.
At some point, you were asked by us being the state, to return that car seat to its original position so that you can get some additional measurements. Do you remember that request?
That is correct.
And what was the measurements that you were asked to go back and take in terms of the car seat to the seats, that being the front driver's seat and the front passenger seat?
From the top of the child safety seat to the upper edge of the driver's seat, and also from the right top corner of the child safety seat to the upper edge of the front passenger seat.
What was that distance?
If I may refer to as 4 inches and 4 inches from the top left corner to the front passenger seat, and 3.5 inches from the top right of the driver's seat.
That seat was 3.5 inches from the driver's seat.
That is correct.
had an opportunity to look at a number of pieces of evidence that were collected from this motor vehicle this morning, correct?
That is correct.
Were there a number of electronic devices that you took from the Tucson?
Yes, there were.
You wanna look at those before? Yes. Start with states 296. Looking at states 296, you recognize this item?
I do.
Describe for the jury what this is and how you recognize it.
This is a Target's laptop bag containing various computer cases and papers. It was collected on actually June 19, 2014 at 0108 hours, 1:08 in the morning.
And this exhibit 296, we saw some photographs of this bag, and to get your bearings, it's got kind of a green interior on the upper flap, is that correct?
That is correct.
Tender states 296.
No objection.
Admitted.
Subject to our prior issues, of course, regarding all the cards.
Okay, those can be reserved, or reaffirmed, rather.
Let's look at some of these exhibits. Might be a little bit out of order, but let's start with 298. Looking at State's Exhibit 298, you recognize what that is?
Yes, I do.
And in fact, it's got your handwriting on the outside of the bag, correct?
That is correct.
And just, well, describe what 298 is, first of all.
It's a SanDisk 2 gigabyte SD card from laptop bag from front passenger floor.
And you recovered that and bagged it, tagged it as well, correct?
That is correct.
And I will tender State's 298 at this point.
No objection, subject to our previous issues.
Admitted, subject, admitted, observing your previous objection.
We don't need to.
Same ruling.
We don't need to open all of these, but I would like you to stand up and just show the jury where your handwriting, where your name and your badge number would be so that they will recognize these on all the packages that are about to be delivered to them.
On the front of the package, I always do it the same manner. I put the case number, the PCN, which is our property control sheet number, and then the contents. Then I put my name and badge number down here and date and time collected. When I seal the evidence with evidence tape, I initial both sides of the evidence tape and the bags, so you can tell if the seal has been broken.
So Holden States 298 CF Grimstead, that's you in the bottom corner here, and this is your handwriting on the exterior of the bag, correct?
That is correct.
And that would be 298 we're referring to. Let's talk about 299 next. What's 299?
299 is a SanDisk Cruiser Glide 32 gigabyte thumb drive from Target's laptop bag from front passenger floor.
Again, we don't need to open that right now, but let's look at 300 and describe what that package is, 300 that you have there.
This is a My Passport external hard drive, serial number Whiskey X-ray Bravo 1 Echo 92 Papa X-ray Tango 06 from Target's laptop bag from front passenger floor. It's with case and cable.
This states 301. Describe what 301 contains, please.
This is an iPhone with case from Target's laptop bag from front passenger seat.
I want to be very clear here about this particular phone. This is not the phone that was recovered from the defendant. This was recovered from this bag after he was detained.
That is correct. It's from the Target's laptop bag.
States 297. Describe what 297 is, please.
This is 7 blank DVD-R and 1 DVD-R with data on it from the Target's laptop bag from the front passenger floor.
This is States Exhibit 302. Describe what 302 is, please.
This is an Apple iPad in case from amplifier component bag in back storage area of the vehicle.
This is 303. Do you recognize what 303 is?
This is an Apple MacBook Pro from the Target's laptop bag from front passenger floor.
As with the other items of evidence, these items that I'm currently showing you, they all have your handwriting from where you seized and collected these items, correct?
That is correct.
States 304. Describe what 304 is, please.
This is a Lenovo T530 ThinkPad from the Target's laptop bag from front passenger floor.
I believe 298 is in. I'll now tender 297, 299, 300, 301, 302, 303, and 304.
Same position in all these items, right?
Same ruling. They're admitted. Note your exception.
I'd rather just.
Thank you. Mr. Lumpkin, can you see this?
No, I'm good. What number is that, though, please?
307.
Thank you.
This is States 307. Do you recognize this item?
Yes, I do.
Describe for the jury what 307 is.
That's the child safety seat that was removed from the rear seat of the vehicle.
Tender 307.
No objection.
Admitted.
That's pretty good.
Same exception ruling.
This is States Exhibit 305. Tell me what that bag 305 contains.
There's 2 boxes of Philips 40-watt Echo Vantage light bulbs, 3 bulbs per box, and 1 Home Depot plastic bag.
Same light bulbs and bag that we saw depicted in some of the photographs.
That is correct.
This is recovered from the front passenger seat of the vehicle, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Tender States 305.
Same position, Your Honor.
Admitted.
This is 306. Describe what 306 is, please.
This is Home Depot receipt dated June 18, 2014 at 12:35 p.m. from bag on front passenger seat.
And 306.
Send it to Sharon.
Same ruling.
Would you step down for me? Okay. $305, what's that?
This is the Home Depot plastic bag that was on the front passenger seat of the vehicle.
And then inside that bag, marked 305, what's this that I'm holding up?
It's a box of light bulbs.
And this box?
It's also a box of light bulbs.
This is 306. All that up, describe to the jury what 306 is, please.
This is the Home Depot receipt that was recovered from inside of the Home Depot bag on the front passenger seat. The same bag that had the light bulbs in it. It's the same receipt that you saw photographed earlier.
Take your seat, please. All right, the electronic devices that we've seen here, is it your responsibility, or was it your responsibility as a crime scene investigator to actually do the analysis of the electronic devices?
No, that's not my job.
Whose responsibility does that typically fall on at Cobb County Police Department?
We have a high-tech crime squad that analyzes our electronic devices.
So in terms of powering these things on and actually doing any searches on the electronic devices that you seized from the Hyundai Tucson, you didn't do any of that?
No, I did not.
Now, I want to ask you about another item of evidence. At some point in time, were you tasked with using this 3D mapping software and going out to map a particular location?
Yes, I was.
Can you describe for the jury what it is you were asked to map using the Faro 3D technology?
Yes, crime scene technician Eric, Rich, and myself were tasked with going to the Chick-fil-A parking lot, and I do not know the exact address right off the top of my head. The same one depicted in that photograph.
This
And
is
scan
State's Exhibit 230. I'm sorry to cut you off, but looking at State's Exhibit 230, is it the same Chick-fil-A that you'd given testimony about from this burial?
Yes, it is correct.
And what were you asked to do specifically at that location?
We were asked to scan the parking lot. The day we went out was a Sunday because Chick-fil-A is closed on Sunday. We did not have to worry about vehicles there, so we had uninterrupted scanning time.
Just by way of example, I want to show you States 246 and 247 already been admitted through another witness. Looking at 246 and 247, do you recognize this as being the entry, exit to that Chick-fil-A parking lot?
That is correct.
And that would be 246 that I was specifically showing you, correct?
That is correct.
When you were tasked with going out to scan that Chick-fil-A location right across from the Home Depot, explain that process to the jury. What did you do?
Crime scene technician Eric, Rich, and myself decided we needed to take several scans to capture all of the parking lot due to, of course, there's a building there, there's several shrubs, and like I said earlier, the Faro scanner is a line-of-sight scan. So we decided we would start in the, if you're looking at the building, we would start at the back left corner, and kind of work our way around so we could capture the entire parking lot.
And using this process on that Sunday, were you able to get a 3D crime scene map of the Chick-fil-A parking lot, including that intersection?
Yes, we were.
I want to show you what's now been marked as States 295. It's a package containing a thumb drive, and it also has an external hard drive. You've seen this external drive before?
Yes, I have.
And looking at this drive, this actually got your initials on, is that correct?
Yes, it has my initials, badge number, and a date.
On this hard drive, you were able to sit in the office with myself and with David Dustin. Did you confirm that this contains a fair and accurate copy of the 3D scan that you did of the Chick-fil-A parking lot?
Yes, that is correct.
And that was provided to the state and to Mr. Dustin as part of this case file, correct?
That is correct.
So now to States 295. All right, Detective, I think that's all I have for you at this point.
We can break before cross-examination. Well, how long? That's not
It'll be
fair.
about an hour or so, Judge.
We'll definitely break.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, closed book, open mind, no talking. Y'all go have a nice break. Let's break until about 20 after. We're in recess.
I'll make you happy.
Take a break, y'all.
It's fine.